Okay, so let us put our warm palms again and we just laugh about it and let's hope. I pray to the universe out there that everything will be fine. Hello, Mehdi.
Hi guys, how are you? Can you hear me now?
Yes. And can you hear
Hallelujah.
us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys perfectly.
All right.
So I do
Guys,
apologize for the technical problems.
no worries, no worries. All meant to be. Yes, please.
I was just about to say it's just because my wife and we've come out to this luxury camp over here, all in the middle of the wild jungle. So we've got rhinos and lions and everything else. So Wi-Fi is a bit of a problem. So I'm sorry about that.
Wow. Thank you so much that, that you still say yes to us, even though you are on a short trip and a kind of like a holiday, I believe. And it's so nice for you to share with us. You have all the wild animals running around you and you're in a camp because Malaysia, our government just announced a full lockdown yesterday, which will take effective on the 1st June. And to all the viewers out there, let us just welcome Mohammed Mehdi Bank, or Mo, a businessman, a husband, and a father. And today we are going to talk about what being a real man means, right? And share out this live talk. Now you can share out this live talk officially because we wish to have as many viewers as we can so that we can share out this, this message out. So Mo, just share with us a little bit, about your own story. Like I usually ask all my guests, tell us a little bit about you. What do you do and what inspired you to come on board to talk about this today?
Okay, so thank you so much, Christine. I really appreciate it. And hi to Lou out there. First of all, I'm a businessman and I live in Kenya. And my wife and we've got several family businesses, hotels, and we've got some theme tracks and stuff like that we do. So it's very, very interesting. And of course, living out in Africa has a different flavor altogether, considering that we are originally from India. When I say India, I mean like 300 odd years ago. So we are completely Kenyanized or Africanized in that sense. So we speak all the languages over here. And to give you a very brief, quick background, my wife and I have been married now for 18 years. And the reason I am here on this show is that we've had a very unique life. Yes, a very unique journey. And this journey has affected not only but it's affected my wife as well, where we got married. After 4 years, we got separated for a period of about 3 years. Then we got divorced. Then for a period of about a year and a half. Then we got back together again. And so my wife and I basically have been married twice, divorced once. And I can only say that other than the normal ups and downs that we normally have in life, we have learned a lot, to a point where the reason I'm on this show with you is that if we can even touch one life or change one couple's life or one family's life or show one man or one woman a better way of doing things, then it would have been all worth it. And it's affected my wife's life in such a beautiful way, in terms of the fact that after what she has learned from what we went through together, she has pretty much committed most of her life professionally to wanting to help other people. So even in Kenya now, not only is she on TV and on radio, but she does all the coaching for most of the people who can't afford it for free, even during COVID and everywhere else. So it's been a very interesting journey for both of us.
Let's just go in a little bit about your journey with your wife, and I love the caption that our team came up with. Forget everything you think you know about men, and we are here. I empty up my cups. I forget everything that I know about men today as well with you. What is being a real man means to you, Mo?
Okay. So let me explain it first in the way I thought it was, and let me explain it to you in the way I know it is.
Yes, very good.
So the way I thought a real man was, I thought a real man was strong, macho, completely alpha dominant, strong, doesn't take no for an answer,
Mm-hmm.
not open to various ideas or anything else, my way or the highway, and would go to any length to basically enforce that persona in a marriage. What
Mm-hmm.
I learned very, very quickly was that that's wrong. And to sum it up, the correct way of being a man is being a gentleman. And what a gentleman is basically is, yes, every woman in the world wants direction. Every woman in the world wants strength. Every woman in the world wants to be led. Every woman in the world wants strength. Every woman in the world wants protection. Every woman in the world wants love,
Mm-hmm.
care, giving, generosity, warmth. However, that should be done in a very gentle way, because women, the way they receive it and the way we give it are two different things. And one thing that I would tell any man that's listening out there is that you need to be very, very gentle with the way you deliver this. Any harsh method of doing anything, even if it's a good thing, can be construed as a threat, can be taken in
Mm-hmm.
a wrong.
Mm.
So the softer you are, the better you are. And believe it or not, it's taken me a very, very long time to learn it. In fact, I was telling Lou and you last week that I'm
Yeah.
still learning. I'm still on my journey of learning. So I'm
Yeah.
still on my journey of discovering. But what I did realize in the past is that being harsh, being difficult, being violent, hurting my wife, and that's unfortunately something my wife and I went through that not many people talk about, especially in our culture,
Yeah.
especially in the Indian culture. And
Yes.
I don't know how it's like in the Malaysian culture, but in the Indian culture, you're supposed to be picture perfect. Outside, everybody's smiling, laughing, happy. The minute you get into the car, everyone's not talking to each other. They don't listen to each other. They probably don't sleep in the same bed. Um, there are fights going on. And the reason that they don't want to admit this is because of society, is because of
Yes.
family,
And
is
family,
because,
culture, repertoire,
yes.
repetition, all these things. And maybe Mo, you can share a little bit, how you both, how it leads to a violent approach that happened in your family in the past. What happened? What happened?
So,
What was going on in your mind at that point of time?
so my wife and I, we got married very early. My wife was very young at that time, and I had a lot of financial pressure. So what would end up happening is that I would come home and I would bring that pressure home.
Mm,
And your wife being the softest person, the most loving person that there is, who wants to help you, share all your problems with you, etc. Um, I turned her into a victim of my circumstances. So when I would bring the pressure home, I would release it onto her. You know,
mm,
I would get angry with her. At first, it was verbal abuse, and after some time, it turned into physical abuse, because
mm,
I had so much rage within me. I had so much
mm,
anger within me that things were not working out in the normal world, things were not working out in the business world, things were not working out for me. That what I ended up doing was expressing it in a very rough manner, unfortunately, with my wife. And
mm,
she was innocent. She didn't need all this. In
mhm,
fact, if anything, she was ready to stand by my side. If anything, she wanted to stand by my side. If anything, I confused her. So you can imagine, after 2 years of this or 3 years of this, when she started standing up to her for herself, I was completely confused as to why. But you can imagine, if you're going to attack somebody and hurt somebody, what is the natural reaction going to be? Even if I did this on the screen, you saw a punch coming towards you, you'd want to defend yourself,
yeah. Yes. Yes.
but my wife didn't do that. Shan, sweetheart, could you get me a charger, please? Okay, I do apologize. Lots of technical stuff going on this side over here. So, but I appreciate
Oh,
everyone
that's
just
how
live.
that's how life is, right?
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is that we went through a lot, but the underlying truth is that there's love. There's love in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
There's love between our hearts.
Mm.
But what I did is I trained my wife directly and indirectly to be very resistant to me,
To be
to
very
resent
what?
me,
Oh, okay.
resistant,
Yeah, okay.
and to resent me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, let me put it this way. Let me give you two parallel universes, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take universe number one.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming home every day, lovingly, soft, polite, with flowers, gifts, looking after her, taking care of her emotionally, mentally, spiritually, sexually, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a woman would you get? You'd get a nice, beautiful, well-rounded, polite woman. You get.
Yes.
When you come home with pressure, number two, if you come home with pressure, anger, frustration, etc., that's fine. That's not a problem. But when you make your wife the target of all that frustration and all that anger, and you start to take her on guilt trips that she's the problem of all of this, then what starts to begin is she starts to defend herself because she realizes that she's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what happens is you start to now mold her character and personality, to show that she's not. Oh, by the way, before she runs away, very very quickly, there she
Hello.
is.
Hi, Shazleen.
How are you?
Good, good, good. Enjoy your
I'm
holiday.
listening.
We're just gonna stall him for 1 hour.
Don't
Good.
worry.
I'm listening on Facebook.
All right. Let's comment as
Okay.
well.
Let's see that. Okay. Okay, go on. Sorry. So that's where I was.
The wife will become more defensive and will start to fight back. I think from being silent, a person, just think of it as a regular situation. Anyone, even though it's among siblings, all right. If things happen like that, it will be from tolerant and just being quiet, understanding that you are having a lot of pressure, and I don't want to add on any more pressure to you. But if persistently it keep continuously happen, of course, it will draw to a line that, hey, I can't take it anymore. Neither can I take this anymore. And I will start to fight back. And I believe that's what happened, right?
Exactly. And you're not going to believe something, Christina. I have finally come to the conclusion about one thing. The environment in the house, okay? Believe me when I say this, comes down to the man.
How so?
Comes down to Okay. So, you see, we dictate. You see, women are very subservient. And I believe even if you look at the way the higher power, the being made us, etc., and we're all different. But you'll find women are looking for leadership. So they will lead in many ways. They will guide in many ways. They will advise in many ways. And they will comfort in many ways. But the tone you set in the beginning, it's like the CEO of any company. The tone and the policies that he sets in the very beginning are the policies that run the house. And I believe if a man is polite, nice, kind, gentle, soft, amazing, compassionate, loving, giving, you're not going to get a monster of a wife. You're going to get somebody who's going to not only appreciate that, but who's probably going to want, because let me put it to you this way. Think about any young girl and you ask her, what's the biggest day you're thinking of in your life? And she'll tell you, my marriage day.
True.
They probably know the kind of dress that they want, what kind of cake that they want, the decor that they want. What are they looking at? They're not even thinking about their parents right now. They're thinking with sparkles in their eyes about that beautiful day when they're going to start the rest of their life. True or not? So they're already ready to go away to their husband's house. Now, if they go away to their husband's house where they have freedom, love, compassion, togetherness, and he creates the right environment and enables the right environment, what is she going to do? Not only is she going to thrive, but she's going to respond positively to it and create and learn. Hang on a second. This is the environment the boss wants us to live in. So what she's going to do is get that environment to expand, to compound, you know. And if you enable that, even now, I'm sure there are going to be problems in any marriage. There are issues, there are challenges, but based on how you handle them with respect, love, and the right communication, she's going to learn that. And she's going to turn around and say, you know what, this is the way to sort things out, you know. And that's how you can have a more positive marriage than a more negative marriage. Now, every marriage is a marriage, but you can either have a more negative marriage and a more aggressive marriage, or a more positive marriage and a happier marriage. The choice is really yours.
Well, we have your wife responded. Everything is so true with a lot of hardship in her eyes. I can see a little bit in her eyes looking at you at the other side. We also have Celine. When appreciation is expressed, people will naturally will do more, whether in a relationship from different family dynamics and more so in a marriage. Yeah. So to all the audience, if you have any question you would like to, ask Mo over here, please, do ask him any question, because Mo have told me, Christina, I'm ready for you to ask me any question. Be as open as you can, because you only have one intention. If you can transform a family, a person, a relationship, a couple, that is really something we have achieved today. But Mo, you are from the other side of the coin, right? As you have mentioned, you used to think a real man is tough, is dynamic, is alpha, in a way it's like a dictator. I say, you do, you follow, right? And then now you come from this side of the coin to the other side of the coin. So what happened in between that make you start to relearn about yourself, rediscover about yourself, and rediscover what relationship and what gentleman is all about?
Christina, that is an absolutely beautiful question. And it's a long answer, but let me shorten it for you. It's love. First of all, the love my wife had for me and the patience she had for me. Secondly, the patience she had to also slowly take my eyes and open them for me. Because I came from a culture that was very closed, very alpha, where the man was everything. And although my wife and I are from the same Indian culture, we are from slightly different subcultures. And that slight difference is a big difference here in Kenya, in the way you're brought up, the way you're exposed, etc. But she had the patience to turn around and say to me that, look, this is the vision for my marriage. This is the vision for what I want. And the answer that I would like to give to anybody out there who's listening is this, especially to the women and the man, is that if you are seriously interested in really changing and turning around your marriage, then it takes two things. It takes a lot of patience, it takes vision, and it takes effort. Okay. And the willpower, of course, to want to do it. So in the beginning, I was all talk. In the beginning, it was all about, yeah, I want to change things, I want to do things, I want to do whatever it is. And then down a slippery slope, things wouldn't change. Again, we would have a fight, slippery slope, things wouldn't change. So if there are any men out there who can identify with this, they'll know exactly what I'm saying. You sit out there, you have a conversation till 2 a.m. Either your wife is in tears or she's upset or whatever the case may be, and then you don't change. After 6 or 8 days, you don't change. And just like a major change in your life, whether it is with weight, with food, with cigarette smoking, a bad habit, starting the gym, a new sport, or giving up bad friends, you have to make a major decision within yourself that you want to change things. And you can only change things when things become a priority. And things can only become a priority when you value them. And I value my wife. But what I was doing was also taking her for granted. I was also thinking, okay, she'll always be around. It's fine. It's not a problem. I'll give a little token and she would soften, and, we would go back to a cycle. But, I didn't realize from this point of view that I have now is that she also gets tired. She also deserves happiness. She also deserves long-term happiness. She deserves protection. She deserves caring, affection, love and embrace, and security from all angles, where she can smile and be happy all the time. Happiness doesn't have to be an option where I believe you should give your wife happiness for a little period of time. Why? If you can give your wife grief all the time, why can't you give your wife happiness all the time? But it takes effort, it takes time, it takes will, it takes determination, it takes focus. You can't make it like a game of tennis that you're going to be playing once a week and you'll give it that kind of attention. No, if you want your marriage to work, um, what I suggest is that you really have to be focused and determined to want to do that. And by the way, while you are doing that, remember one thing: life is still happening.
Exactly, I was about to ask you.
Yeah, so there's still challenges going to come through.
There's still pressure.
Yes, there's still going to be financial pressure. There's still going to be mental pressure, political pressure, COVID pressure. The country's still going to close down on the 1st. So many things are going to be happening. But it really comes down to now how you train yourself mentally, how you become the leader, how you become the focus. And here's the thing. I believe this. If you become the master of your craft, so let's say your craft is wanting to perfect your marriage. Now, nothing can be perfect. Only the superior being can be perfect. At least that's what I believe. But you can get it down to 95%, 96%, 97%, where, yeah, you will make the odd mistake. But imagine if you're getting 96% of the stuff right, you know what? Any woman, however ungenerous she is, will let 4% slide, But at the end of the day, if that effort is seen and appreciated, you're in a good place. You're in a good place.
I'm just curious, you see, in the past, you let out your pressure, you let out whatever challenge that you had, to your wife. And after you realize it, after you learn this, after you're walking on this journey, that you realize that women deserve to be treated beautifully, treated nicely. How you deal with your pressure, the things that you are still having as a man? How do you deal with it without letting it up to the woman?
So that's a really, really good question. So you see, here's the thing. At first I was very confused when I decided not to bring the pressure at home. By not bringing pressure at home, I took it as not sharing anything at home. There's a difference. Okay? So let's say you're going through a very difficult time at work and there's a lot of pressure at work. That doesn't mean you don't share with your wife. It's just that the bulk of the pressure that comes with it stays outside the door. What you bring into the house is information, not the pressure, not the emotion that comes with it. So you bring the information, you explain, because you know what? She's your family at the end of the day. If God forbid something was to happen to you as a businessman's wife, she needs to know what's going on. Tomorrow, if there's a problem and you're not around for whatever reason, the superior being has decided he wants to chat to you a little earlier than normal and you have to leave, then she's got to be aware of what your affairs are and how they work, etc., etc. And that happens with communication and information. And even that information, how you relate it to her, is very, very important. So you don't come home with shock and awe, because the marriage is not working. You deflect it with another subject, like, oh my God, now you become dramatic about it, so that her attention quickly goes over there. And, some people do this, unfortunately, where they'll take a dramatic event and use that third-party event to unite the family. I don't know if you know what I mean. So husband and wife will get united against the problem. That shouldn't be the case either. That shouldn't be the case either, and I don't believe that. What I believe is that you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. That's fine. That's life. The world keeps spinning. How many presidents have died? How many leaders of religions have died? The world spins. So when you go home, inform your wife that, look, there is this challenge that we are facing. However, these are the options I'm looking at. This is how I'm dealing with it. This is where we are right now. So don't worry about it. Now, pass me a cup of tea. And you move on. So there's no need to bring in the pressure, there's no need to bring in the stress, there's no need to do any of that. Number two, that stress, it is your job as a man to provide. Simple. It is.
Can you
As a
repeat that
traditional
again?
role, yeah, as a traditional role, it's your job to provide. So women give birth, women look after children, women look after so many things. But when you come home, they're always there for you. They're always there to look after you, to give you a helping hand, to give you a smile, whatever the case may be. Sure, women have bad days as well, but you don't see them, blowing up necessarily all the time. They seem so patient. I'll give you an example. They say when a woman gives birth, it is so painful that there's a possibility of even death. Now, there's nothing a man does unless he's in the mafia that's going to give him death. You know what I mean?
That's a very
Okay.
good metaphor that you are using.
Yeah. So there's nothing that a man can do that is as serious as a woman putting her whole body and her life at risk for the family. But she does it with love. Okay. Why can't a man do it? Why can't a man do it? We don't need to bring the stress from outside into the house. If anything, that should be a moment when the family is excited. When you meet in the evenings, everyone should be happy. Where you're gaining strength from each other. You're being positive with each other. And if there is a problem, no problem. It's not the end of the world. The sun will rise and the sun will set. But the thing is, you have the whole evening in a beautiful way at the right time to share with each other and give each other strength. And that's the most important thing.
And your wife echoed to it. You have to make sure you really, really check in on each other, allow each other to feel and heal. And that was something that she commented earlier. We have Vivian, which echo to your example. Unless the man is in the mafia, he has no risk of death.
Yeah, exactly. There's no risk of death. There's no risk of death. So there's nothing really, if you go to see, that is that serious that should bring violence into the house, that should bring disrespect into the house, that should bring pain into the house. No, there's nothing. There's nothing. Go on, please.
Yeah. So Mo, let me just ask you a scenario where, even though men try to, being a husband, the role, they are a provider, they try their best to mentally, prepare themselves, not to lash out, not to share the pressure, they shut the door. Once they come home, they shut the pressure out of the door, But what if they come home, right? This is a real life event that I've been seeing myself, okay? That the wife start nagging or start talking and start nagging. And it kind of boil up emotions inside the husband, right? So what is your advice or what is your view on this scenario? What would you do differently?
Two things. Okay? Let's do two things. First of all, understand one thing as a man. When you come home, the woman has been at home. Let's say she's a housewife. Okay? She's been at home for 9 hours. Her world, unfortunately, has become smaller. She's given up a career, education, or whatever it may be to bear your children and look after your house. Okay? Now, when you are sitting in a house for 9 hours, things will start to get into your head and into your mind. It could be the neighbor, relatives, friends, mother-in-law. It could be anything. Okay? It's fair. It's fair. It's not like she's been with you outside, okay, where you have interacted with your bosses, friends, colleagues, taken calls, done this, found challenging situations, had a laugh, had lunch outside, had fresh air. None of that. She's been at home cooped up. So there are two ways to deal with this situation. One, with complete compassion, understanding, and presence, where you sit down and listen to her. Because I'll tell you one thing, woman is not mad. She just doesn't want to nag for the sake of it. But you know what? These are things that are troubling her in her world. They may not be important in your world, but they are important in her world at that moment, at that time. So what do?
Mm-hmm.
You take off your work hat, you put on your best friend hat, and you sit there with a nice cup of coffee and you listen to how the parrot or the cat or the dog or the kids or the maid or the mother-in-law or whoever it is did whatever it is. Why? Because she will feel heard, first of all. Okay? That will empty her cup. Number two,
Mm.
a lot of the times people nag. It's just another way of communicating and saying, I want your attention and I want your love. But I don't know how to ask for it directly. So, what I'm going to do is create a situation that sounds like an emergency so that I can have your full attention and your full love. If she still wants your attention and your love, just give it to her 110%. When she's done, whether it's 5 minutes, and sometimes it could be 35 minutes, see how she feels. She will never go back to that topic the whole day again. It'll be done. Number two, let's say you come home, scenario number two, and you come home and it's a situation of she's nagging, okay? And you've just had one of those days where you can't take the nagging, okay?
Mm.
What I would suggest is you change her state completely, all right? Become playful, run into the kitchen, say, come quickly with me. I want to show you something really quick. And put on the kettle, and she'll be like, what did you want to show me? I said, I want to show you how the kettle can boil. And just change her state a bit. And, just tell her, look, be something playful, be something different. Do you know what I mean? Take her to the park very, very quickly. Get her into the car. Say, hey, listen, I forgot. We needed to go and get something from the supermarket. Now, that's one way of distracting her. The other way is on a good day, not on the day she's nagging, on a good day where, let's say, you've gone for dinner, you've got date night, you're talking, everything is fine. And you're like, sweetheart, when I come home sometimes, I know there are all these pressing issues that you feel. But sometimes what happens is when I come home, I find it very difficult to transit into home mode. Okay. So sometimes I like to just have a cup of tea and have a shower or whatever the case is. Then I'm all yours. But you see, when you're going to make that promise and you're going to turn around to her and say, I'm all yours, make sure you're all hers. What you do is you come home, you have your cup of tea, you have your shower, and then make sure you keep your promise by going to her and saying, sweetheart, how was your day? And let her tell you about the parrot, the dog, the cat, the mother-in-law, the dustbin, what happened to the electricity, what happened to the TV. Let her tell you everything. Take it, listen to it, and understand that that's her world at this point in life. And you cannot do what you'd be doing in your world if it wasn't for her.
Wow. Well, you know what, to all the audience out there, whether you're a man or woman, I hope, this is really something going to impact your life, whether you are in a relationship or you're not in a relationship somehow, or rather, it will become a form of information and a form of skills, when it comes to a situation like this. We all now know how to handle it better and how to transform the dynamic from a negative to a positive one. And we have quite a few of the comments over here. Vivian was saying, I'm all yours. Make sure you are all hers. And she is emphasizing, all the, I would say, punchline that is important for all the viewers. Make sure that when you promise, and you make sure you deliver. And more. And in situation like this, especially when pandemic happens, a lot of time the couple spend more time at home than usual. And I'm sure things will fire up, things will stir up, and there will be more arguments, and somehow or rather domestic violence do happen, without I think a lot of times it wasn't intentionally initially, I'm sure, but somehow it happened. What would your advice be to the man as well as to the woman who is going through this journey?
Okay. Look at the That's a very good question, Christina, by the way. Excellent question. Look at the institution of marriage as the most valuable thing you have between yourselves. So if you've got John and Mary and they have the institution of marriage, don't look at it as something that you can damage, treat badly, hurt how you please, and then recover from it. No. Look at it as a nice, shiny car. Yeah, have you seen people with their cars? It doesn't matter, even if the car is 20-year-old. If they go to the mall and open the door and it hits the wall, they're like, oh my God, they'll still look at the scratch. Am I right?
Yes.
Let your marriage be like that. Even after 20 years, if you hurt it a little, look at the scratch and the damage that you have caused. What am I trying to say over here? It's this. There's a lot of responsibility required in marriage. By that, I mean is that, you see, if you put yourself, it's this simple. If you put I before we, you're going to have a problem. If you put we before I, you're never going to have a problem. Why? Because you're going to see, hang on a second, there's an issue today, let me not discuss it. There's a little pressure right now. This is pressing, it's important. Let me change my tone. I can say the same thing better. What you see, because there are two ways of doing things, and this is where we need a lot of education. Let me answer your question in two parts. When people are at home, especially during the pandemic, and they're having a lot of fights, the problem is not the pandemic or the fact that they're at home. The problem is that they have grown with time, but they have grown apart with time.
Wow. They have grown with time, but they have grown apart with time.
That's right. So what happens is, if you got married 15 years ago, okay, 15 years ago, you could not wait for each other. Now you cannot wait to be apart from each other. What's wrong? It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right.
True.
And you see, that's become the norm. People say, yeah, that's normal. It's not normal. You have one life. Why should it be normal for you to live with wanting to run away from your marriage? You should be wanting to run to your marriage. And that's why women have got kitty parties. They go for their coffees and their teas, and they talk about their husbands or whatever the case may be. And then they feel comfortable about the fact that, okay, we all have similar problems, so I'm not wrong. We're about right. Guys go to the golf course or tennis clubs, wherever, gyms or bars. I don't know what people do in Malaysia, but, in a way, they don't feel sad about their lives. But my point is this, is that only you know the truth when you go to sleep at night. And that woman next to you is hurting because she's not fulfilled. She's not loved. She's not complete. Emotionally, she's halfway. All those promises you made at the beginning of marriage have not been fulfilled, have not been corrected. That is somebody's daughter. That is another human being who's bearing your child. That is your number one priority without any doubt in the world. And as far as I'm concerned, there should not be a single golf game, tennis game, or pub that opens unless your wife is happy. You should not leave. You should not leave the home. Now, how do you educate yourself about this? Take different courses. Learn. Something that changed my life was Anthony Robbins. I went to meet him twice in Australia and in San Diego, and I learned a lot from him. My wife being a life coach, we're constantly learning, not only about each other, but the institution of marriage. But here's the thing. If you're running away or keeping quiet in your marriage just to keep the peace, I promise you, it's just a volcano waiting to happen at some point. And then when it goes to divorce, or somebody's having an affair, or something like that happens and you're feeling pain, no, it's the silence that you had before that's allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
So don't allow it. Marriage is something so beautiful. But like I said, instead of growing apart, like my wife said, and she passed a comment on the chat, make sure you're checking in on each other. Make sure you're growing together. There's so many parts that you today, Christina, are growing on. Today you're growing mentally, spiritually, sexually, physically, by going to the gym. There's a million ways you're growing. Your husband is growing a million ways. But are you growing together or are you growing apart? You know, and it's very important that you make time for each other to grow together and ensure that you grow together.
Wow. I'm just speechless at this point of time because there are a lot of information to digest. As a lady over here, I have a lot of information to digest from Mo. I'm not sure about all the men and women and the gentlemen and the ladies out there, how you feeling. But it's very rare to have a man being so honest with what you have done in the past and using it as an example and to educate and bring awareness to more who are on the journey. And I believe this has really been what you always wish to share. Is that correct, Mo?
It's not what I wish to share ever. It's just that, you see, we all make mistakes in life. Okay, we're human beings. I mean, there's no manual to bring up children. There's no manual to marriages. There's no manual to so many things in life. But here's the thing: we can all learn from each other. That's why we read books and we watch movies and we do so many things. You know, we interact with each other. We go for dinners. We go for seminars. We do all these things so that tomorrow we can be better. And the reason we talk to our children on a regular basis is because we want the next generation to turn out better. But my wife and I come from a place where we feel it's so sad if there's even one woman suffering in the world or one man suffering in the world because of a lack of ignorance or because they don't understand how to do things, or if a marriage is broken because of it. And with us, we've got divorced, married. I mean, we know what we've been through in 18 years, and it's very, very important to us that if there are any lessons, as little as they are, that can even change any other marriage by 2 degrees for the better, we're all for it.
Mo, how about, in a more traditional family, the man is the one that go out, bring money home, and that's how all the pressures, blah, 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 which you have shared. But nowadays, we do have women who are tougher than men. I shared while you are having technical issue, I was sharing with the audience, how my friend used to describe me was a man living in a woman's body. Yeah, so
Right.
that was how tough I was. And of course, like you say, when you want to change yourself, when you want to improve yourself, you will find courses to attend. And I attended different courses by, our founder, Golden Space founder, Master Umesh H. Nawani, Awaken and Divine You. And I start to appreciate the feminine side of me. But how about in a family situation? Yeah, I'm still single, but in a family situation where the woman brings back the money rather than the man, and the woman is the one that is aggressive. Well, how should the husband deal with it? Do you have any advice for this or to the women out there?
Okay. Yes, I do have a little advice for somebody like that. Do understand one thing. First of all, let me answer this from a very, very distant place, okay? When we were cave people and lived in caves, women stayed at home, men changed and went and brought food. Then we became people who lived in joint families, if you remember. Okay. 10 uncles, 10 aunties in a courtyard, big houses. I don't know. Okay. Now we live in apartments. Okay. So we have learned to evolve as people, if you have looked at it that way. All right. So with time, things will change. And at times, women are more appreciated in the workplace because of their loyalty, honesty, and dedication than men are. So the world is changing. So you will, just because those are the same qualities they offer in motherhood. Okay. So it's inbuilt in them. Okay. And there are certain companies that appreciate that and want to reward that. Now, what you'll find is that sometimes that will lead to a situation where women will climb financially, and they will lead financially, and they will earn more money financially. And at times you'll also find women are more ambitious materialistically and financially as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. It's just that you have to understand, for her to want to do that, you have two kinds of women again. One, I'll give you an example. My wife. My wife is on practically, with God's blessings, every TV show and every radio show there is in our country over here in Kenya. Okay. But if you look at her, she stays in her essence. She's completely not smitten by fame. She's completely who she is. It's just this, whether it's on this TV or that radio, it doesn't bother her at all. Okay. But there are other women where they might get affected by that. Now, this is where you need a husband who's very, very understanding. Okay. Because a husband can feel threatened. Why? A woman to be like that in the workplace, sometimes with other men, needs to get more alpha, needs to get more strong in her personality. She's only doing it because she needs to survive in that environment, and that opportunity has presented. And remember, the husband and the wife have also discussed it, that for her to be in that position, naturally change her a little. So a lot of understanding and communication is required. What kind of understanding and communication? I'll give you. Somebody like Margaret Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister of England, would make sure she runs the country, but at the same time would make sure she would cook for her husband and her son every single day without fail. Okay. Now, the balance is achievable. So if you bring the bacon home, that's fine. You can also go on a power trip and say, look, I'm the one who's doing this. I'm the one who's doing this. And you can tilt the balance as a woman. No problem. But remember the consequences to that as well. If you now bring the power home, you're now living outside your essence of being feminine, outside your essence of being soft, outside your essence of being kind, okay, and compassionate. So that hardness will create some resentment in your husband. And he has to counter the alpha by becoming more feminine. So you might find he might end up making more meals, probably doing the laundry, helping some with some of the chores and everything else. So tomorrow, as a woman, in case you want an alpha man and he is not there and he's checked out, it's because you've also trained him to become feminine. So what's the secret over here? Like my wife said again, is check in on each other all the time. And as a woman, recognize that, hang on a second. Yeah, I may have an alpha nature in me, but if I take it, my husband's going to lose it. So I need to tone this down at home and keep it up in the business world. But at home, I'm feminine. At home, he's alpha. And if that balance stays, there'll be a lot of harmony and peace for a long time to come. Now, of course, you can never keep the balance there 100%. But then always discuss on date nights or whatever it is, that if that changes, what are we going to do to correct it?
Wow. Thank you very much. And I hope this can also be another helpful information to all the families out there. Mo, one last question. For those family who is undergoing or having the experience of physical abuse, what would be your advice to them?
You must stop it immediately. You must. It's like a bad drug. Abuse. First of all, let's go with this. Real men don't scream and shout. They communicate effectively. Okay. No man in the world needs to hit his wife. Okay. And number two, no woman in the world needs to take that abuse. None. No woman in the world needs to take that abuse. And if it has got to that stage already, then just know you've missed a couple of steps. What are those steps? How to communicate, when to communicate, what to communicate about. It gets physical, like a bar brawl outside a bar or outside a restaurant or outside a club or any one of these places when, unfortunately, you can't talk to each other perfectly or talk to each other properly with respect. If there's respect somewhere, it'll work. So what do you need to do as a couple or as a family that already has this problem? You need, if you cannot do it yourselves, you need to immediately reach out to somebody who can help you and trust, that you trust. So
Mm.
either an elder, a relative, a friend that can mediate between yourselves. Number
Mhm.
two, you need to educate yourselves as to why you're doing it. Okay.
Mhm.
And once you understand the root problem of why you're doing it, that solves 50% of the problem. Okay. Last but not least, you need to be accountable to somebody. So if you're
Accountable
the
to
aggressor,
somebody.
yes. So for, let's say, for example, I am the one who is the aggressor in the family. What I need to do now is, after I have discussed it with a mentor or a peer, okay, to check in with that person on a regular basis to make sure that I'm not going down that street again, and what measures I'm taking to ensure that I stay on the straight and narrow, which is the correct path.
Mm. Mm.
And of course, lastly, when but this is an obvious thing, but when, as you're discussing things together as a couple, not to push each other into that environment. So, for
Not to
example,
push each other into what environment? Sorry.
if you know there's going to be a problem discussing something to do with the family, let's say the finances, okay?
Mm.
You know your husband is tired or your wife is tired, but because you are feeling upset that day, you're looking for attention the wrong way,
Mm.
okay? One of the wrong ways of looking for attention is to start a fight, because it satisfies a need. Okay. So what you end up doing now is you now start changing your tone, picking up a fight, telling somebody how they never do anything, etc., etc. It's just weak. It's unnecessary. It doesn't need to
Mm.
be done that way. That's why I said, if you always, before you do anything, have the institution of marriage in front of you and say, that's the most valuable thing. And what I'm about to do, hang on a second, wrong. I need to change my tone. I need to change my language. I need to change my approach. I actually even need to change my time. You
Time.
see? Yes, because sometimes you may discuss it right now and it'll cause a fight. But if you discuss it in 2 hours, or you discuss it on Sunday evening after a nice relaxed evening in a very different manner, having thought about it effectively, you'll communicate effectively. Something that could have become a fight now becomes something that's communicated so beautifully and so effectively that it actually brings value to the marriage instead of eroding it.
Mm. 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 And I
So
hope,
you need to
yes.
fit all those options. You see, that's why marriage is a lot of responsibility. It's not a game, it's not a joke. And that's why you can't switch off on it. And that's
Mm.
why I got divorced, because I did.
But
But
you
I had
get
a very
married
good
again.
partner. Pardon?
You get married
Sorry?
again.
Yes, thankfully. I mean, the person I love, I can't imagine spending this life with anybody else. But, thankfully, uh, you get a chance to reflect. And although it's expensive in terms of time, for the other person, but, hopefully you can return the value not only once, but tenfold, and then it's worth it for everybody. Because look at it this way. Go
Mo,
on.
I'm just really curious, and you briefly touched about it just now, but you know, what truly true, I know you say it's because of love that make you start rethink your entire marriage, but what make you realize it was love?
Everything. Everything. First of all, the way she left her home for me.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, how when I was being difficult and I was being violent and I was being hurtful, she would be so subservient in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She would just take it. Thirdly, how while I was being the aggressor and
Mm-hmm.
taking her on guilt trips, she would feel that it's her fault, like she had done something wrong. And I
Mm-hmm.
was enabling that behavior. I was making her feel all that. So
Mm-hmm.
I was taking guilt, mountain of mountain on it, and heaping it on her. And the poor girl would just take it. she would take all of it, like it was her fault. So, you see, it's very easy for somebody to go into self-defense mode and say, stop, I'm not interested in this and you're not going to do that to me. Okay. But, when somebody is soul searching and wondering and crying all the time and wondering, hang on a second, what am I doing wrong? When it's actually the other person doing it wrong, and you're just at the receiving end of it, being made to feel guilty that you are the wrong, or you are the aggressor, or you are the person who's doing all this. It's very unfair. And anybody who can do all that loves you. Who can go through all that has a lot of patience. You see, today's marriages, I realized, have become more about money, degrees, what kind of a life am I going to have? What is society going to think? Where are we going to be in 3 years? Is he handsome enough? Is she pretty enough? Will we have good children? That's all the outside side of it. Nobody knows the inside. Does that person have cancer? Is that person a bad behavior? Has that person come from a family of abuse? Is that person going to go broke in 5 years? You don't know what the superior being is thinking about. You could have all the money in the world, and then you could be broke in 5 years. So today's marriages, unfortunately, are not necessary. I'm not saying all of them. Most of them are not necessarily built on values. And you see, how do you know where values are? When everybody wants a Louis Vuitton bag, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Louis Vuitton bags. They're perfect. I mean, my wife has a couple of them. But the fact of the matter is that when that becomes your focus in life, that becomes a problem. When your focus in life is
external.
Happiness. Yes. When you're filling yourself up with trips, when you're filling yourself up with materialistic stuff, thank you for helping me there. When you're filling yourself up with everything, your career or anything, and these are mistakes we all make, by the way, and it's okay. It's okay to make them. It's all right. But the most important thing is to realize why. Because you only have one life. You only have one life. And you only have one life to correct it. And you know what? Correcting it is not difficult. It's just changing habits and mindsets and creating trust in your partner. If you can create trust in your partner that you want a better life and we can do it together, then you can do it together.
Wow,
but you got to be consistent.
Yes. And before we end this, Mo, what is your, I always ask this question to all the guests. What is your last takeaway to the audience? And I'll be more specific for you. What is your last takeaway to the gentlemen as well as to the ladies that are listening or that are watching this?
Okay. So let me tell the ladies first. Unfortunately, men are like little boys. Okay. They're lazy. They're not. There's an exception to the rule. There's some brilliant men out there. And I've started to learn that some of these Gen Zs and some of the millennials think very, very differently from my generation. However, sorry about this. There are most of the men are like little children. Okay. Especially a certain generation, they don't want to change. They want to be happy. They want to do things the way they wanted to do things. They want life to come to them very, very easily. And they want to expound as little energy as possible in anything and get the most pleasure out of it. That's just how men are built. Okay. What I would suggest you do as women is that not coming off as a nag or anything like that. Get them to see your vision of marriage. And more importantly, sometimes it may even take a very long time, trust me. Break it down for them. Book courses. Do things. Push them, nurture them in the right direction. Because if their mother and father did not, unfortunately, you're going to have to baby them for a while until they can see things for themselves and in the right direction. Once they begin to share that vision with you, it's a good vision. because men usually have visions in what profits them. So it's either business or sport or friends or something egoistic, and that's where it is. So that's the advice I have uh, for the women in regards to the men. Okay.
Mm.
Now for the men, this is what I would say. You don't know what you have at home, because I'll tell you this: as long as she has a beating heart, you are sitting on a gold mine. It is up to you to either be the happiest man in the world or the saddest man in the world. And the choice is literally in your hands. If you are a gentle man and do what you need to do in a beautiful way, you will get that woman responding to you in the most delightful ways possible, making this world and the next world for you paradise. However, hell hath no fury over a woman's scorn. You mess up with a woman at home, abuse her, take her for a ride, cheat her, deceive her, make sure you say all the wrong things, and then one day decide, why did this volcano erupt? It's because you've been asleep at the wheel. So either way, it's your fault. And this is the advice I would give any household. If you see your house is not happy, you don't need to go blaming anybody. Least of all your wife. Just look in the mirror and know that's the man who's got the problem. And if you change that man, you'll change everything. You can change everything.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so that's a very beautiful ending piece of advice and the last takeaway to all the audience. And I thank you, and I thank all the viewers who are staying with us, throughout the entire live talk. And do one thing for us, if you find this a conversation with Mo is really inspiring and it kind of help you in any way, do share this live talk. All the live talk on Body Mind Soul platform are available for replay at any time at your own convenience. And do one thing with us, between me and Mo, we really hope that all the message get to go out as far as possible. That's why we have Mo all the way from Kenya to share his piece of story with all of us. And we do have Vivian over here, awesome advice for the men and women. I personally feel it was really awesome, and I will take all your advice, as a piece of knowledge before I enter into my own family in future. It was a very powerful, and thank you very much, for taking your time with us, amidst your holiday with Shazmin. And do send my love to Shazmin. I know she's just next to you. And with that, I would say thank you very much, Mo. A very good bye and a very good evening to you as well. There's going to be afternoon at your end. And to all the audience, stay happy, stay safe, and always remember you can reach out to any one of us on Body Mind Soul if you need any needs. And with that, I would say a very good evening and a very good afternoon to all, and have a great weekend and that's coming. With that, goodbye everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.